everyone, hope you all are well. The first thing I'm doing today, as always, is prime the eye area for the shadows that are to come. Today I'm using the Urban Decay Eyeshadow Primer Potion. I'm just adding a few swipes of this across the eye area, and then I'm blending that into the skin with the fluffy side of the brush that came with the Urban Decay Naked Honey Eyeshadow Palette. This step just ensures that our shadows last all day long and that they blend as easily as possible. If you don't have a primer, you can just add some foundation or concealer over the lids and make sure to set with a powder, and then you can work away with your shadows as normal. So I'm using the Masquerade Mini palette today by Juvias Place. I've had this palette years, so unfortunately I didn't have fresh pictures of it, but they were on my old laptop, so excuse the muddy palette. The first shade I'm taking up then is Zulu. It's a matte warm toned medium brown. It is in the palette anyway. I definitely feel that once applied to the eyes, it's got more of an orange kind of terracotta hue to it, but it's a lovely shade all the same. So I'm just using this as my transition shade. I've been applying this with a Blank Canvas Cosmetics E26 blending brush, and I'm winging that shadow out towards the tail of the brow, out at an angle on the outer edge of the eye, just to give the eyes a nice lifted appearance. I always like to build up the intensity of my shadows by adding a couple of light layers of the shadow. This way I just feel you get a really nice blend. You don't go overboard with the first application. If you do, it can be a lot harder to blend it out. So just use light layers and you won't go wrong. So I'm switching now to a small bullet shaped brush. This one's from Vanity Planet. I think it's actually discontinued, but any small bullet shaped brush or pencil brush would do. You just want a small dense brush for packing on colour down along that lower lash line, and I've just made my way carefully from outer to inner corner, sweeping back and forward. So the next shade I'm taking then is called Burkina. This is a nice chocolatey brown and it's got a matte finish to it. I've just dusted off my E26 brush and picked this shade up on it too. So I'm starting by tapping this down on the outer third of the eye before using little circular motions and swirling motions, swirling the shadow up into the crease. And initially I'm keeping it to the outer half of the crease. I like to add a wash of colour first just so I don't go overboard, as I said. I still want that nice warmth to peek through, so I'm going in now with a second layer of that brown shadow, and I'm just being a little bit more exact. I'm focusing more of this shadow into the crease area now, starting on the outer corner again, making my way into the inner corner, and I'm just adding a nice bit of depth with this shade. What I do to the top, I'm doing to the bottom, so I'm going in now with that bullet shaped brush again. I'm sweeping that brown shadow down along the lower lash line, and it's up to you how far you pull the shadow downwards. If you want more of a dramatic look, buff it right down below the lash line, or if you want it looking a little bit more low-key, keep it tight to the lash line. So I'm taking up some of the shade Ada on my brush now. This in the palette looked like a nice dark burgundy, but that just doesn't translate well onto the eyes, I find. It's more of a coppery orange shade, not too dissimilar to Zulu. It's a bit deeper, which is grand for what I want it for, but I always layer up my shadows from light to dark. That way I get a really nice gradient effect, and I think it's really important if you want to achieve a decent smoky eye. So I'm just reworking that shadow now into the crease and blending it upwards so that it fades nicely into those two previous shades. Then I'm using the little bullet shaped brush once again to fade this shadow down along the lower lash line. And what I will say about these shadows though is fallout is little to none, which is great if you do your base first like me. You don't have to worry about it. So I'm taking now the shade Casablanca, which is a warm golden brown shade, and I'm using this on a pencil brush. This is the Sigma E30. And I'm just patting and sweeping this down on the inner half of the eyelid. This shade can be used damp if you want those shimmery particles to pop even more, but I actually think it looks pretty spectacular on its own. So I'm just using little tapping and sweeping motions just to blend that colour halfway across the lid, and I obviously wanted to blend in with the other shadows that are still on the lid, so I'm overlapping them slightly. So I like for everything to blend nicely into one another. So now I'm taking the shade Cairo, which is a shimmery kind of an orange shade. And I'm using this then on the outer edge of the eye. I just think it will just fuse really nicely with the Casablanca shade. Those two tones are quite similar, and it just means that they merge together that little bit better. So now I'm taking the shade Fulani. I've probably butchered these names, I'm so sorry. But I'm using this now on a small Sedona lace kind of like a tapered blending brush, and I'm just swirling this into the outer part of the upper lash line once I've got it tucked in at the lash line, I'm fading it upwards. So I'm kind of applying this in a C shape on that outer edge of the eye. And what I will do then is I'll flick it upwards and outwards towards the tail of the brow too, just again to go along with that nice elongated look that I've been trying to create. And I again, as always, apply this shadow in a few light layers, just building up the intensity, swirling it into that outer edge of the eye. You always want your shadows to be darkest on that outer edge, lightest towards the inner part of the eye. And as I said, then that pulls the eye outwards. It makes it look nice and elongated, which is exactly what we want to achieve today. So then I'm going in with a NARS pencil. This is one of the high pigment long wear eyeliners, and it's in the shade Mulholland Drive. It's a brown, but it's got a bit of a kind of coppery shimmer to it. It's got a nice warmth to it, so I think it really pairs off the look nicely. It ties everything together, and I'm just lining both the top and bottom waterline with this liner. And I think with this look as well too, it's great for autumnal season. It's great for summertime too. It's one I think really you can just wear all year round. So now I'm taking an angled brush. This again is from the Vanity Planet set. And I'm just using that dark brown shade again, just to add some of it along the lower lash line. I'm pressing this shadow right into the lash line, and then I'm flicking my brush downwards just to fade it out. I'm also going to add it into the outer third of the upper lash line, just again to darken the lash line. It'll help to conceal the band of lashes I'll be applying. So now I'm taking that nice kind of pinky, shimmery champagne shade. I'm adding this around the tear duct of the eye with the use of a Wet n Wild little bullet shaped brush, and I'm also applying it under the arch of the brow too. I've applied some of the Eyelure Bauble lashes, and now I'm using the Wet n Wild Mega Length Mascara just to apply this down along my lower lashes to give them a nice bit of length. And then I'm also going to apply this mascara to the upper lashes, and it'll help just to blend my own lashes in with the false ones. But then that's it. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. I hope you found it helpful and easy to follow. If you did, please do let me know. And if you have any suggestions, pop them down below too. And I'll catch you all really soon.